talking to Dr. Inga Meier of the SFA School of Theater, and curious to know what you've done to keep the School of Theater functioning at a high level during this strange COVID time.
So I'm in charge of organizing Theater Day, which is an event that we have in the department 3 to 4 times a year. And it's a recruiting event that freshmen or transfer students who have auditioned elsewhere perhaps, or who have not yet auditioned, can come to the department and visit the department basically. And so they get tours, they meet with faculty, they audition for scholarships, and they also get to see our main stage production and usually a student production as well. And so obviously with social distancing being what it is, students weren't able to physically come to campus. And so we basically had to shift that entire process to an online format while still trying to give them as many opportunities to familiarize themselves with the department as they would have had under other circumstances.
What did you do about the productions that they would normally see to get to know the school's theater?
So as a faculty, we had larger discussions about the productions in general. And Jack Hefner, who runs the Festival of New American Plays every other year, which usually involves 3 different plays that are new plays by established playwrights. So Jack Hefner basically worked with CC Con and the students to put that online. And so we had a YouTube link for it where students who participated in Theater Day, but also people who wanted to see it in general, could then see the event, and it was up for an additional week. If they had missed the live opportunity, then they could still access it on our SFA YouTube channel. And the very initial conversations involved, because there were a couple different SFA YouTube channels, so figuring out what the correct channel was, making sure it was up and running, making sure we had access to it. But then CCCon really worked out the logistics of pushing basically a Zoom format onto YouTube and making that accessible to people. So that's what we did.
And I think you said usually students would get an on-campus tour of theater facilities. Was there a substitute for that?
Yeah, so the tour is actually usually done, it's led by students who are members of APO, which is an honor society. And so, again, obviously we couldn't have students touring the building. So the way the tours function is that either it's a general tour or it's a tour if the students are design tech students that incorporates a visit to the scene shop. So what I did was I got in touch with Savannah Lewis, who is one of our students and office workers, and asked her if she could, while she was in the building, film a sort of selfie video of herself providing a tour. And then Tyler Curitin, who is the head of the scene shop, did something similar. And then we basically, I got in touch with Michael Tubbs. We put that on the SFA website. And then we also, with CCCon's help, put that on the SFA YouTube channel so that it's now there for future possibilities as well.
What else would prospective students usually get to do on Theater Day? And were there other things that you substituted for?
Yeah, so normally they would also meet with faculty. We have usually about hour-long breakout sessions. And so what they were able to do during those breakout sessions under conventional circumstances is sit in a room with a faculty member and then ask questions about the area that they're interested in, whether that's acting or design tech or some other area. And unfortunately, again, we had to shift that. So what we did was we created Zoom meetings where the faculty got together, who was in charge of that area. I elected one person to manage the Zoom aspect of it. And then students actually could sign up for more than one. So if they wanted to hop from one Zoom meeting to another, then they had multiple links that they could access. So we basically did them as Zoom meetings. The one thing that became logistically really challenging was the classes, which they were not able to sit in on. But they were able to meet with faculty and ask questions and have that direct one-on-one interaction.
I think you said also that sometimes students audition at Theater Day. So did the students have to employ some technology themselves to make
Yes.
part of it happen?
Yeah, so there was a lot of technology and there was a lot of emailing back and forth. So, I would say compared to a normal theater day, I probably, did somewhere between 5 and 10 times the amount of emailing I would regularly do with students for this. So part of that was the audition is different depending on whether it's an acting audition or a design tech audition. And so for the acting auditions, we had students basically film themselves at home doing their monologues, and I asked them to do them back to back so that that part at least was similar to the way that it would be in person. So it's on the same video. And then they submitted those along with all of their other audition materials. If it was a design tech interview, I asked them to convert their materials to a digital format if they hadn't already. A lot of them already had. And it's a good tool for design tech students in general to have their tools accessible in a digital manner. And then basically I coordinated with formatting those emails and making sure they were distributed to the faculty so that everybody had access to all of these audition materials in a relatively uniform way. The design tech students also during their breakout session had the opportunity to talk with design faculty about their portfolios. So yeah, basically the students had to film themselves or convert materials digitally. But I will say that they really did a really good job with making that adjustment, and were very adaptable in that regard. And the students who did respond, I mean, the level of engagement I think was of a higher level than it would have been under other circumstances, actually.
Well, speaking of level of engagement,
Yeah.
Our campus is so beautiful. Our faculty is so dynamic. Usually having prospective students here in person is a really important factor in students becoming really excited about becoming lumberjacks and coming to SFA to be theater majors. Do you have a sense of how successful your effort was? Do you think the students learned the same things or got any of the same sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird animal in certain ways, because I think it brought certain advantages and it brought other disadvantages. So on a typical theater day, I would say that it's not unusual for maybe a quarter of the people who initially sign up to either not show up or come to a later theater day for whatever reasons. And so for this theater day, I was concerned that there would be a really massive drop-off in terms of the number of students who still attended. But we actually ended up with a bit over half of the students actively participating. And those students who actively participated are ones who had to jump through the hoops of creating the videos and doing the design tech materials. And so I think that while the general participation rate was lower, I think the number of students who are actually enthusiastic, like of those 50% of students who participated, I think the rate of those students who are likely to attend SFA is higher than it would normally be. And I think part of that probably has to do with the fact that we were just constantly emailing So they didn't have the in-person engagement, but they did have the constant contact.
One other thing I imagine that they usually get is, if not some interaction with other prospective students, at least they sort of get a look at some other prospective students.
Yeah.
At Theater Day, was there any kind of interaction among the students that attended Theater Day?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the video that Savannah Lewis did, not really. I mean, they got to see the Q&A for the Festival of New American Plays, of course. But I think that's a good point. That might be worth adding into future Theater Days if we're still in this boat. So yeah.
We all live in hope that we'll be back on campus and welcoming more visitors and students back to campus here shortly. But we're all certainly still learning how to do it when we can't be there.
Right.
Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to say about how you adapted this Theater Day experience?
I think the only thing that I would add is that because it had so many moving parts, it really would not have been able to be pulled off if every single one of those parts didn't work. Mm-hmm. So the fact that Tyler and Savannah were kind enough to make those videos, the fact that the faculty were willing to look at, all the emails that I inundated them with audition materials, I think that made a huge difference. So I think the idea that we sort of all worked on this as a team, I think was a really important component in being able to pull it off.
Well, thank you for your leadership of it and for your creativity and resourcefulness and willingness to coordinate so many different details to let those prospective students know as much as possible about what it'll be like when they become theater majors at SFA. And thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.